The screaming started at 2:47 a.m. Joseph Carter was huddled under the Interstate 85 overpass, trying to stay dry as a rain hammered the concrete above him. He'd found a relatively sheltered spot behind a concrete pillar, his sleeping bag pulled tight around his shoulders, a half-empty bottle of cheap vodka pressed against his chest like a lifeline. The rain had been falling for hours. Not normal rain, the kind of storm that shut down cities, flooded streets, turned highways into rivers. The kind of storm that made even the most desperate seek shelter. Joseph wasn't sleeping. He never really slept anymore. He just existed in a gray space between consciousness and numbness, waiting for dawn, waiting for nothing. Then he heard it, a woman's voice raw with pain and terror, cutting through the storm. "Help! Somebody help me!" Joseph's first instinct was to ignore it. He'd learned that lesson years ago. Getting involved meant complications. Complications meant problems. Problems meant pain. He took another drink, closing his eyes. "Please, someone, anyone." The voice was closer now, desperate, breaking. Joseph's hands tightened around the bottle. He was nobody. He had nothing to give. He was barely human anymore, just a shell that moved through days without purpose, without hope. "My baby! Please, my baby's coming!" Joseph's eyes opened. Something in those words cut through the fog in his mind. Something ancient and trained and buried so deep he'd thought it was dead. He stood up slowly, his body protesting. 43 years old, but feeling 70. The vodka sloshed in the bottle as he set it down carefully against the pillar. He stepped out from under the bridge into the storm. The rain hit Joseph like a physical force. Within seconds, he was soaked through, his threadbare jacket offering no protection. Water streamed down his face into his eyes, but he moved forward, following the sound of the woman's cries. She was about 30 yards away, collapsed beside a black SUV that had skidded off the access road and down the embankment. The vehicle was tilted at a severe angle, front end buried in mud, hazard lights blinking weakly through the downpour. The woman was on her hands and knees on the ground, her expensive-looking coat soaked and muddy. She looked up as Joseph approached, her face contorted with pain and fear. "Help me," she gasped. "Please, the baby's coming. I can't reach my phone. No signal. Can't call." Oh, God. Another contraction hit her. She doubled over, screaming. Joseph stood frozen for a moment, the rain pounding down. Every instinct told him to run. He wasn't equipped for this. He wasn't equipped for anything anymore. But his feet moved forward anyway. He knelt beside her, his hands shaking. Not from withdrawal, though that was always there. From something else. Something he'd buried 3 years ago and sworn never to touch again. "How far apart are the contractions?" he heard himself ask. The woman looked at him through the rain, her eyes wild. I don't know. Close. Minutes. Maybe less. I was driving to Mercy General. The storm... My car just... Oh, God, it hurts." Joseph looked around. They were completely exposed, halfway down an embankment in the middle of a storm that showed no signs of stopping. No cars on the road above. No lights anywhere. Just darkness and rain, and this woman about to give birth in the mud. "We need to get you somewhere dry," Joseph said, his voice hoarse from disuse. "I can't move," the woman sobbed. "I can't. It's too fast. Something's wrong. This isn't how it's supposed to." Another contraction, stronger this time. The woman's screams turned primal. Joseph's mind, foggy for so long, suddenly clicked into a clarity he hadn't felt in years. Training he'd thought was lost came flooding back. Procedures, protocols, the muscle memory of a profession he'd abandoned. "Listen to me," he said, his voice becoming steadier. "I need you to breathe. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Can you do that?" The woman tried to focus on him. Who are you?" "Someone who can help," Joseph said. "But you need to trust me. What's your name?" "Dorothy," she gasped. "Dorothy Donovan." "Okay, Dorothy, I'm Joseph. We're going to get through this. But I need to check how far along you are. Is this your first?" Dorothy nodded, tears mixing with rain on her face. Yes, I'm 36 weeks. It's too early. My husband, I need to call my husband. We'll worry about that after, Joseph said. He was already moving, his hands checking her pulse, assessing her condition with a practiced efficiency that surprised him. Right now, we need to focus on you and the baby. He looked at the SUV. The back door was open, swinging in the wind. Not ideal, but better than the open ground. Can you move at all? He asked. I'll try, Dorothy said. Joseph helped her up, supporting her weight as they stumbled toward the vehicle. Each step was agony for her. Another contraction hit halfway there. Joseph held her through it, counting seconds, his mind calculating time frames and complications. They made it to the SUV. Joseph helped Dorothy into the back seat, trying to position her as comfortably as possible. It wasn't much shelter. The door wouldn't close properly due to the angle of the vehicle. Rain still came in, but it was something. Joseph climbed in beside her, his clothes dripping, creating puddles on the leather seats. I need to check your progress, he said. I know this isn't ideal, but just do it, Dorothy said through gritted teeth. Please, just help me. Joseph's hands were shaking again as he checked her. When he pulled back, his face was grave. You're fully dilated, he said quietly. The baby's crowning. This is happening now. Dorothy's eyes went wide with terror. Here? Like this? I can't. I need doctors. I need a hospital. I know, Joseph said, but your baby doesn't want to wait. We have to do this here. Are you a doctor? Dorothy asked desperately, grasping at hope. Joseph paused. The truth felt too heavy to speak. I have medical training, he said finally. I've delivered babies before. I can do this, but I need you to trust me and do exactly what I say. Can you do that? Dorothy looked at him, really looked at him for the first time. She saw a homeless man, filthy and soaked, with hollow eyes and shaking hands. She saw someone who looked half dead himself, but she also saw something else, some flicker of competence, some ghost of authority in his voice. She had no choice. Okay, she whispered. Okay. Another contraction hit. Joseph moved quickly, positioning himself, his hands steadier now, muscle memory overriding everything else. When the next contraction comes, I need you to push, he said. Not before. Wait for my signal. Understand? Dorothy nodded, panting. The storm raged around them. Lightning flashed, briefly illuminating the surreal scene. A desperate woman about to give birth.
Push!
A broken
Push,
man trying to remember how to save a life.
Pushing!
Now, Joseph said, push. Dorothy pushed. And in that moment, Joseph Carter, drug addict and homeless wanderer, became a nurse again. Before we trace how Joseph ended up a drug addict, I want you to please help me prove something wrong. My mother said I wouldn't even reach 5,000 subscribers, but I believe stories like this deserve to be heard. Help me show her that these tales matter. Please subscribe to this channel, and let's keep breathing life into stories that were never meant to stay silent. Now to how it all began. Joseph Carter had been a labor and delivery nurse at Boston Memorial Hospital for 12 years. He was good at his job, more than good. He had the calm demeanor, the gentle hands, the intuitive sense of when something was going wrong that made him invaluable in high-stress situations. His wife, Rebecca, was a teacher. They'd met in college, married young, built a quiet life in a small house in Medford. They'd always wanted children but couldn't have them. Rebecca had endometriosis, multiple rounds of treatment, years of heartbreak. They'd finally accepted it, found peace in their life together. They traveled. They had nieces and nephews they spoiled. They had each other. That was enough. Then, miracle of miracles, Rebecca got pregnant at 39. Natural conception against all odds. They were terrified and overjoyed in equal measure. The pregnancy was high risk. Joseph knew that. He monitored every symptom, attended every appointment, asked every question. He was prepared for complications, but he wasn't prepared for insurance to deny coverage. Rebecca's policy, through her school district, had a clause about pre-existing conditions, the endometriosis. Years of documentation showing fertility issues. Somehow, impossibly, The insurance company decided the pregnancy was related to those conditions and therefore not fully covered. They fought it, filed appeals, hired a lawyer they couldn't afford. The insurance company delayed and delayed and delayed. Rebecca went into labor at 34 weeks. Premature, but not catastrophically so. Joseph brought her to Boston Memorial, confident in his colleagues in the system he worked in. But complications developed quickly. Rebecca needed an emergency C-section. The baby was in distress. Every minute mattered. The hospital administration hesitated. Without insurance confirmation, without upfront payment, they delayed. Not long, just minutes. Just enough time to verify coverage, to protect themselves from liability. Just enough time for Rebecca to start hemorrhaging. By the time they got her into surgery, it was too late. They saved the baby, a girl, tiny and perfect. But Rebecca bled out on the table while Joseph stood in the hallway, helpless, listening to the code team working on his wife. She died at 3:17 a.m. The baby died 4 hours later, complications from the premature birth. Underdeveloped lungs. Joseph held his daughter as she stopped breathing. He felt her tiny heart stop under his hand. The hospital sent him a bill for $380,000. The insurance company eventually paid a portion after Rebecca was already dead, after their daughter was already dead, after it no longer mattered. Joseph paid for 2 funerals with money he didn't have. Then he stopped going to work. He stopped answering phone calls. He stopped being a person. 6 months after Rebecca died, he started drinking. It helped dull the rage, the guilt, the unbearable weight of living in a world that had taken everything from him for the sake of profit margins and bureaucratic protocols. 8 months after, he lost his house, couldn't make the payments, couldn't function enough to work. A year after, he was living in his car. 18 months after, he was living on the streets. And now, 3 years after Rebecca's death, he was in the back of a stranger's SUV, delivering a baby in a storm, doing the one thing he'd sworn he'd never do again. "One more push," Joseph said, his voice steady despite everything. "You're almost there, Dorothy. One more." Dorothy screamed, pushing with everything she had. Joseph's hands guided the baby. He'd done this hundreds of times. He knew every stage, every potential complication, every subtle sign that something was going wrong. And something was going wrong. The baby's shoulder was caught. Shoulder dystocia. A complication that required immediate intervention. In a hospital with a team, with equipment, it was manageable. Here in the back of a wrecked SUV, in the middle of a storm, with nothing but his hands and his training, it could be fatal. Joseph's mind raced. He had seconds to act, maybe less. "Dorothy, I need you to stop pushing," he said firmly. "Right now. Don't push." "What?" Dorothy gasped. "Why? What's wrong?" "The baby's stuck," Joseph said, his hands already moving. "I need to adjust position. It's going to hurt. I'm sorry." He didn't wait for permission. He couldn't. He performed the maneuver he'd learned years ago, applying pressure, adjusting angles, working with a speed born of muscle memory and desperation. Dorothy cried out in pain. "I know," Joseph said. "I know. Just a few more seconds." He felt the shoulder shift, release. "Okay," he said, breathing hard. "Okay, now push. Now!" Dorothy pushed. The baby came free, sliding into Joseph's waiting hands. For a moment, everything stopped. The storm, the rain, the world. There was only this tiny, slippery human in his hands. Eyes closed, skin blue-tinged, completely still, not breathing. Joseph's heart stopped. Not again. Please, God, not again. His hands moved automatically. He cleared the baby's airway, positioned the tiny body, began infant CPR with 2 fingers against the chest, so small it broke something inside him. "What's happening?" Dorothy sobbed. "Why isn't the baby crying? Why?" "Come on," Joseph whispered, continuing compressions. "Come on, breathe, please breathe." 30 seconds, a lifetime. Then the baby gasped, a small, wet sound, followed by a wail, thin and weak, but there. alive. Joseph's hands shook violently as he wrapped the baby in his own jacket, the only dry cloth available. He placed the tiny crying bundle on Dorothy's chest. "It's a girl," he said, his voice cracking. "You have a daughter." Dorothy was crying, laughing, holding her baby with trembling hands. "Is she okay? Is she going to be okay?" Joseph examined the baby quickly. She was small, premature by a few weeks, but breathing, pink color returning, strong heartbeat. "She needs a hospital," Joseph said. "Soon, but she's stable for now." "You did so well, Dorothy. You both did so well." He sat back against the seat, suddenly exhausted. The adrenaline was draining away, leaving him hollow. Dorothy looked at him with tears streaming down her face. "You saved her. You saved both of us." Joseph didn't respond. He couldn't, because all he could see was another baby, another delivery, another mother who didn't survive. He closed his eyes, trying to breathe through the panic rising in his chest. "Hey," Dorothy's voice was soft. "Are you okay?" Joseph opened his eyes. Dorothy was watching him, concern cutting through her exhaustion. "I'm fine," Joseph said automatically. "You're not," Dorothy said gently, "but that's okay. You just saved our lives. You're allowed to not be fine." The kindness in her voice broke something in Joseph. He looked away, unable to meet her eyes. "What's your last name?" Dorothy asked after a moment. "Carter," Joseph said quietly. "Joseph Carter." "Joseph Carter," Dorothy repeated. "I'm going to remember that name. I'm going to make sure my daughter knows that name. The man who brought her into the world when everything went wrong." Joseph shook his head. "I'm nobody, just somebody who was there." "No," Dorothy said firmly. "You're somebody who knew what to do. Somebody who didn't run away when I needed help. That makes you somebody important." Before Joseph could respond, they heard it, the distant sound of a siren. Dorothy's face flooded with relief. "Oh, thank God, my husband. He must have sent someone looking for me." The sirens grew louder, multiple vehicles. Then lights appeared on the road above. Emergency vehicles, an ambulance, police cars, and a black Mercedes that skidded to a stop with reckless urgency. A man jumped out of the Mercedes before it fully stopped. Tall, mid-40s, expensive suit soaked through. He half ran, half slid down the embankment, calling Dorothy's name. "James!" Dorothy called back. "James! We're here!" The man reached the SUV, his face frantic. Then he saw Dorothy, saw the baby, and his expression shifted to stunned disbelief. "Dorothy, the baby, she's here," Dorothy said, crying again. "She's okay. We're okay. Because of him." She gestured to Joseph. James Donovan looked at Joseph for the first time. His eyes took in the homeless man's appearance, the filthy clothes, the hollow face. Confusion flickered across his features, then understanding, and something else. Something Joseph couldn't quite read. "You delivered my daughter," James said, his voice thick with emotion. "Yes," Joseph said simply. Paramedics arrived then, swarming the scene with professional efficiency. They checked Dorothy and the baby, prepared to transport them. Joseph backed away, trying to disappear into the chaos, but James Donovan grabbed his arm. "Wait," James said. "Please, don't go." "They don't need me anymore," Joseph said. "Your wife and daughter are in good hands." "I need to thank you properly," James said. "I need to... Please, what's your name?" "Joseph Carter." James pulled out his phone, but there was still no signal. He looked frustrated, desperate. "Give me your number, your address, some way to reach you." Joseph almost laughed. "I don't have a phone. I don't have an address." James stared at him. "You're homeless," Joseph finished. "Yeah." The paramedics were loading Dorothy into the ambulance. She called out, "Joseph, please come with us." But Joseph was already backing away, melting into the darkness beyond the emergency lights. "Wait," James called. "At least let me..." But Joseph was gone, disappearing into the storm as quickly as he'd appeared. Joseph walked for hours through the rain. He didn't go back to his spot under the bridge. He couldn't. Not yet. He walked until his legs gave out, until he collapsed in a doorway downtown, shivering and soaked through. His hands wouldn't stop shaking, not from the cold, from the memory of holding that baby, from the terror of those seconds when she wasn't breathing, from the overwhelming relief when she finally gasped. He'd sworn he was done, sworn he'd never touch another patient, never be responsible for another life. The cost was too high, the pain too deep. But tonight, he'd saved 2 people, and it hadn't brought Rebecca back. It hadn't changed anything. But somehow, impossibly, it had cracked something open inside him. Some small space where light could get in. Joseph sat in that doorway until dawn, watching the storm finally break, watching the sky turn from black to gray to pale blue. When the sun rose, he stood up. His body ached. His head pounded. He needed a drink so badly his hands shook with it. But instead of finding a bottle, he started walking. He walked to the public library when it opened, used the computers to look up news. There it was, already. Billionaire's wife gives birth during storm, saved by Good Samaritan. The article was brief. Dorothy Donovan, wife of tech entrepreneur James Donovan, had delivered a healthy baby girl after her vehicle crashed during the severe storm. She and the baby were recovering at Mercy General Hospital. The family was searching for the man who'd assisted in the delivery. Joseph closed the browser. He left the library. He wasn't a hero. He was just a broken man who'd done what needed to be done. That didn't change what he was, where he belonged. He went to buy a bottle with the few dollars he had panhandled the day before. But when he got to the liquor store, he stood outside for a long time, staring at the door. Then he turned around and walked away. James Donovan was a man accustomed to solving problems. He'd built a tech company worth $3 billion through sheer determination and strategic thinking. He didn't accept obstacles. He found solutions. But finding one homeless man in a city of hundreds of thousands was proving impossible. He'd hired private investigators. He'd posted rewards. He'd contacted every shelter, every outreach program, every social service agency. Nothing. Joseph Carter had vanished. Dorothy recovered well from the delivery. Their daughter, whom they named Grace, was healthy despite being premature. They brought her home after a week in the NICU, but Dorothy wouldn't let it go. "He saved our lives," she told James every day. "We have to find him." "I'm trying," James said, "but he doesn't want to be found." "Then we try harder," Dorothy said firmly. "That man gave us our daughter. We owe him everything." James hired more investigators. He offered larger rewards. He had his team analyze every piece of information they had, trying to build a profile, narrow down locations. 3 weeks after Grace's birth, one of the investigators found something. Joseph Carter, former RN at Boston Memorial Hospital, worked labor and delivery for 12 years. Exemplary record. Then he just stopped showing up. 3 years ago. James read the report. It was thin. Employment records. Professional certifications that had lapsed. A last known address that led to a foreclosed house. But there was one more detail. A notation in the hospital records. Personal tragedy. Wife and infant daughter deceased during childbirth. James read it twice. Then he closed his eyes. "Oh God," he whispered. He understood now why a trained nurse was living on the streets, why Joseph had been so shaken after the delivery, why he'd disappeared rather than accept thanks. The man who'd saved James's wife and daughter had lost his own to the same circumstances. James made a decision. He was going to find Joseph Carter, and he was going to help him, whether Joseph wanted help or not. It took another 2 weeks, but the investigators finally located him. Joseph was back under the Interstate 85 overpass. Same spot, same sleeping bag, same hollow existence. He'd tried to stay sober. For 3 days after the delivery, he hadn't touched a drop. But the withdrawal was brutal, the memories worse. Eventually, he'd given in, bought a bottle, and sunk back into the familiar numbness. It was easier this way, safer. He was sitting with his back against the concrete pillar when the black Mercedes pulled up on the access road above. Joseph saw it but didn't move. Rich people sometimes drove by to gawk at the homeless. Entertainment for their guilt or their superiority. But then James Donovan climbed out of the car and made his way down the embankment. Joseph's first instinct was to run, but he was too tired, and honestly, he didn't care anymore. James approached carefully, like approaching a skittish animal. He was dressed more casually than the night of the delivery, but his clothes still cost more than Joseph's entire existence. "Joseph Carter," James said. Not a question. "Yeah," Joseph said flatly. "I've been looking for you." "Found me?" "Congratulations." Joseph took a drink from his bottle. James sat down on a piece of broken concrete, uninvited. "How are you?" Joseph laughed, a harsh, broken sound. "How do I look?" "Like someone who's struggling." "That's one word for it." They sat in silence for a moment. Cars rushed by overhead. The sound of the city continued, indifferent. "My daughter is healthy," James said. "Thanks to you. We named her Grace." Joseph didn't respond. "Dorothy wanted to come," James continued. "I asked her not to. Not yet. I wanted to talk to you first." "About what?" Joseph asked. "You want to give me money? A reward? Save your conscience?" "No," James said quietly. "I want to give you a choice." That got Joseph's attention. He looked at James for the first time. Really looked at him. "What choice?" James leaned forward. "I know what happened to you, your wife, your daughter. I know why you're here." Joseph's jaw tightened. "You don't know anything." "You're right," James admitted. "I don't know what that pain feels like. I can't imagine it. But I know that you're a trained nurse who saved my family. I know that underneath the addiction and the trauma, you're someone who still has the instinct to help. I saw it that night." "So what?" Joseph said bitterly. "That doesn't change anything. I'm still this." He gestured at himself, at the bridge, at his life. "It could change," James said, "if you wanted it to." Joseph shook his head. "I'm too far gone." "Are you?" James asked. "Because 3 weeks ago, in the middle of a storm, when you could have walked away, you didn't. You delivered a baby. You saved 2 lives. That doesn't sound like someone who's too far gone. That was different." "Why?" Joseph's hands clenched around the bottle. "Because I didn't have time to think. Didn't have time to remember why I can't do this anymore, why I shouldn't." "Because of what happened to Rebecca and your daughter," James said gently. Joseph's head snapped up. Don't say their names. You have no right." "You're right," James interrupted. "I don't. I'm sorry." "But Joseph, what happened to them wasn't your fault." "Yes, it was," Joseph said, his voice breaking. "I worked in that hospital. I knew the system. I should have fought harder. Should have done more. Should have." "You did everything you could," James said firmly. "The system failed you. Insurance failed you. The hospital failed you. But you didn't fail them." Joseph turned away, unable to look at him. Tears were running down his face, cutting through the grime. "I couldn't save them," he whispered. "I'm a nurse. I'm supposed to save people, and I couldn't save my own family." James waited a moment before speaking. "But you saved mine." The words hung in the air. "I can't give you back what you lost," James said quietly. "No one can. But I can give you an opportunity, a chance to honor their memory by doing what you do best, helping people, saving lives." Joseph shook his head. I can't go back to nursing. I can't put myself through that again." "Then don't," James said. "Not yet. Not until you're ready. But let me help you get clean. Let me help you heal. And when you're ready, if you're ever ready, there's a place for you." "What place?" Joseph asked bitterly. "No hospital's going to hire a washed-up addict." James smiled slightly. "I'm not talking about a hospital. I'm talking about something different, something better." He pulled out a folder from inside his jacket. Inside were architectural drawings, business plans, mission statements. "I'm building a birthing center," James said. "Free care for women who fall through the cracks. Women without insurance. Women in crisis. Women like my wife would have been if she'd crashed in a different neighborhood. if someone else had been under that bridge. Joseph stared at the documents. "I want you to help me run it," James said. "When you're ready. If you're ever ready, but first you need to get healthy. Will you let me help you do that?" Joseph's hands were shaking. "Why? Why would you do this?" "Because you saved my daughter's life," James said simply. "Because I have the resources to help, and you need help. Because I think Rebecca and your daughter would want you to survive, to heal, to keep doing what you were meant to do." Joseph closed his eyes. He felt the weight of 3 years pressing down on him. The grief, the guilt, the self-destruction. He felt the bottle in his hands, and he felt something else, something small and fragile, the same thing he'd felt holding Grace in the storm. Hope. He opened his eyes and looked at James. "I don't know if I can do this." "You don't have to know," James said. "You just have to try." Joseph was quiet for a long moment. Then slowly he set down the bottle. "Okay," he whispered. "Okay." Recovery wasn't dramatic. It wasn't a movie montage of quick victories and triumphant breakthroughs. It was slow, painful, full of setbacks and doubt. James arranged for Joseph to enter a treatment facility, a good one, the kind that treated addiction as the medical condition it was, not a moral failing. Joseph spent 90 days there, learning to live without substances, learning to sit with his grief instead of drowning it, learning that healing wasn't betrayal. He almost left a dozen times. The pain of sobriety was worse than the numbness of addiction, at least at first. But each time he packed his things, he thought about Dorothy, about Grace, about that moment when the baby gasped and lived. He stayed. After treatment, James set him up in a small apartment. Nothing fancy, just clean, safe, his. Joseph stood in the empty living room and cried. It was the first place he'd lived in 3 years that wasn't a bridge or a shelter or the backseat of an abandoned car. James visited regularly, not as a benefactor checking on an investment, but as a friend. He brought Dorothy sometimes, and baby Grace. They never pressured Joseph, never expected gratitude. They just showed up. Slowly, carefully, Joseph began to heal. He started attending support meetings. He found a therapist who specialized in grief and trauma. He began to process what had happened to Rebecca and his daughter, not to forget them, but to carry their memory without it crushing him. 8 months after that night under the bridge, James showed Joseph the construction site. It was in a neighborhood that needed it, lower income, underserved, the kind of place where women struggled to access prenatal care, where hospital bills could destroy families. The building was taking shape. James had spared no expense. State-of-the-art equipment, comfortable spaces, everything designed to provide excellent care with dignity and respect. "The Grace Mitchell Donovan Birthing Center," James said, pointing to where the sign would go. "Named after my daughter and your daughter. I hope that's okay." Joseph couldn't speak. He just nodded, tears streaming down his face. "We open in 4 months," James continued. "I need a director of nursing, someone who understands what it's like to fall through the cracks, someone who won't let that happen to anyone else." He turned to Joseph. "I know you're not ready yet, but I'm patient. The offer stands. Whenever you're ready." Joseph looked at the building, at this thing being built from tragedy and hope. "I'm not the same nurse I was," he said quietly. "I know," James said. "You're better. You understand things you didn't before. You've lived through things that will make you more compassionate, not less." Joseph took a deep breath. "I want to try. I don't know if I can do it, but I want to try." James smiled. "That's all anyone can ask." 1 year after the storm, the Grace Mitchell Donovan Birthing Center opened its doors. Joseph stood in the lobby, wearing clean scrubs, his nursing license reinstated, his hands steady for the first time in years. He'd been working with the staff for months, training them, establishing protocols, ensuring that every person who walked through these doors would receive the care and respect they deserved. The first patient arrived at 9 a.m. A young woman, 19, pregnant and terrified. Without insurance or family support, Joseph greeted her himself. Hi, I'm Joseph. I'm the director of nursing here. You're in the right place. We're going to take good care of you. The relief on her face reminded him why he'd fought so hard to get here. Throughout the day, more women came. Different stories, different struggles, but all of them needing care they couldn't access anywhere else. Joseph moved through the center with quiet confidence. He'd found his purpose again, not the same purpose he'd had before. Something deeper, forged from loss and pain and the hard work of healing. That evening, after the last patient had been settled, James and Dorothy brought Grace to visit. She was walking now, toddling around on unsteady legs, babbling in that mysterious language only toddlers spoke. Grace saw Joseph and immediately reached for him. He picked her up carefully, still marveling that this was real, that he was here, that he'd survived. "She loves you," Dorothy said, smiling. "The feeling's mutual," Joseph said softly. James put his arm around Dorothy. "You did something amazing here, Joseph. My father died of a heart attack when I was 20. Never had enough money for proper care. He waited too long because he couldn't afford it. I built my company thinking I could change that with money alone, but it took you to show me how." Joseph looked around the center, at the comfortable rooms, at the equipment that would save lives, at the staff he'd trained to see every patient as someone who mattered. "This isn't about me," Joseph said. "It's about them. Every woman who walks through that door deserves what Rebecca didn't get. A chance, respect, care that doesn't depend on insurance or money." "Your wife would be proud," Dorothy said gently. Joseph felt the familiar ache. It would always be there, but it didn't crush him anymore. It reminded him why this mattered. "I hope so," he said quietly. Then he looked down at Grace, who was falling asleep on his shoulder. "I think she would be." The Grace Mitchell Donovan Birthing Center had delivered over 2,000 babies in 5 years. 0 maternal deaths. 0 preventable complications. They'd become a model, copied in 4 other cities. Joseph was still the director of nursing. He'd also become a speaker, advocating for healthcare reform, for policies that prioritized care over profit. He'd testified before Congress, been featured in medical journals, told his story countless times, always including Rebecca's name, making sure people understood the human cost of healthcare inequality. He'd remained sober, 5 years clean. He still attended meetings, still saw his therapist, still had hard days. But he was alive, truly alive, not just surviving, and for that, he is grateful. Did you enjoy this story? We bring you more stories like this on this channel. Please subscribe. Thank you.